Okay, I may be the last one on earth to discover or learn about illusion or shadow knitting. I discovered it during my last visit to Atelier Laine. So hello everyone, welcome or welcome back to my very small place on the internet, whether you are watching this video on YouTube or listening to the audio only on YouTube podcast or on Apple podcast. My name is Isabelle, I am in France, and this is my small place where I talk about my knitting. I have several series and I try to categorize the different type of videos I make. And today it's going to be a video about my Woolly Stories series. So in November I went twice to Atelier Laine. Once the first time I did not report about anything other than what I bought during my last episode of my Yarn No by Year project. And the second time I also bought yarn there. I've also reported about it in my last episode about my Yarn No by Year project. But that second time I went there in November was for a whole day in what Frédéric calls tricoter, T-H-E, and it's a play on word because tricoter is to knit, the verb to knit in French, and T and T, the word T in French is pronounced as the same, but it's not written as the same. So it's kind of a play on word. And during these days, she gathers what she calls tricopine. So it's another play on word because tricot is knit and copine is friend. So you know that the last part of tricot is the same as the first part of copine, of friend. So she contracted the two words, and about twice a month, something like that, she invites people to come for a day to her farm and knit and talk and everything. So I'm not going there very often. This is my second time going for a day, a whole day. So you bring your lunch and people knit there. You're gonna see footage about that I took there and pictures, and I'm going to be talking about that day. There were two events that I think are worth reporting. One, something that is kind of sad thing that happened to someone. And the second thing is what I just said previously, that I discovered shadow knitting or illusion knitting, and it's just black magic. So first, what am I wearing? I am wearing what I called pull irlandais bleu in my Ravelry project that I will link down below. It's like an Irish style of sweater, and bleu is blue, so a blue Irish type of sweater. And this is the first sweater I knit after I took back knitting in 2018. I had a burnout at work. I did not stop long enough, I think, when I think of it now. I went out of work for 2 weeks, and then it was during the Christmas and end of year vacation, so I took another 2 weeks without working. And I started knitting again to take me out of that state. It helped taking me out of that state. And because all I could do as a positive thing was knit 1 row per day. So I knit a big scarf. And then I said, okay, what do I want to be doing next? So I went to get some yarn and tried to reproduce. So there were 2 sweaters that I lost when I was a teenager. One that got stolen from me. It was on the back of a chair in a cafe, and I went, I don't recall, to the bathroom or something. And then the sweater was gone when I came back, and I was very sad. And another one, I really do not know what happened. And it was kind of that way with heavy cables, and it was in a bluish greenish color that I could not find yarn that was close enough to that color. So I decided I went to go get some yarn. At the time, I did not know anything about Ravelry, and I did not. So I went to a commercial yarn store here where I live. I got some commercial yarn, and I knit from a pattern I had in a booklet. So that's from Bergère de France, and I will link the pattern too. It's a pattern for a coat. This coat, so it's open in the front, so I used the stitch pattern. I'm going to take that out so that you can see it all. So I knit in pieces, and as I did not know anything about short rows or anything, I just knit the back halfway through that motif higher to raise the back, because I was already used to raising the back. I did a little caul that stands up that way because I like that type of caul. I used the stitch motif on either side, but the front, of course, as it is a coat, it's open. So I made my own pattern for that, and I knit it flat, and I sewed it here, and you have a motif on each sleeve, so that cable here, that the big cable here, and the rest of the other cable, and the bottom and the cuffs are with this. I'm not sure, I do not recall, I know the name in French now that I've been speaking in French, and the English name escapes me, and I will write it down, but you know, it's really easy. You knit one per one, and you change the next row. It's really must stitch, I guess, but I'm not sure. Anyway, there was that much left of the yarn, and as I'm not used to having leftovers at the time, I made a caul to go with it. So when I went to see Frédéric, and during her day where she invites people, she had placed that day on a Saturday so that I could come, because as I'm coming from far away and as I'm working, I can't come during the weekdays. Sometimes, or most of the times, she has these days during the weekday, but I can't come when it is on a working day. So she made one on a Saturday for me and for other people. It's not only for me. And I had said, if you make one in November, I will come, that I can come to, I will come. And because I won't be coming anytime before next spring or at the end of the winter at least, because it's going to be bad weather, and I have a 2-hour drive one way, and I don't like to be driving during bad weather. I don't like to be driving at night. So November is the very last limit I'm going to be able to come and for a day. If not, I will just come next spring. So she's a setup one, and we were over 10 or 15 person there. I have pictures, I have footage that I'm going to be showing, and I'm not sure when I will place these pictures. This is the day I bought the cashmere, and other people did too, because she had only bigger yak, heavier weight for yak that not many people buy and like knitting, and she had some of the cashmere left, and I got one cone, and another person did too, and everything. Okay. So you've already heard about that in my last Nobaï video. So we started to knit, we prepared for lunch, and there was one person who was supposed to be coming. She was not coming from very far away, but she had over a half-hour drive, and she was not there. And Frédéric was quite worried about her, and without any news or anything. So at some point she called. It was very late in the morning. We were organizing lunch because I had brought 2 cakes and people always bring things to share. So I had my lunch and I brought some dessert. Other people had other things and to share with everybody. And she got a phone call, and she had been in a hunting accident where a deer, and it was a real deer, the big sized one, crossed the road and landed on her car and completely destroyed her car. And when we heard that, I suddenly was so stressed out for her because I kind of know her, but also because on my way there, it's in the deep countryside, I drove back twice with signs for hunting spots. And on the Saturdays, so hunting is heavily regulated in France. You can't hunt every day of the week. There are special days, and Saturday is one of them. And so when you see the spots, it's mandatory. It's the regulation. You have to have big signs saying this is a hunting spot, and people from the hunt have to be there to regulate traffic and stuff like that. Because a couple years ago, someone got killed in their car by a bullet. That was not intentional. She was just driving by, and it was a so sad accident. So sad accident. So I don't like to be driving by hunting spots. So I drove quite slowly because I thought dogs could cross the road chasing whatever they were chasing, or boars could cross also. And I'm very afraid about boars because they are big and heavy and dense, their density, and they have big heavy skin. And if you hit a boar on with your car, the front of the car is usually destroyed. So I was driving quite slowly, and also it was very bad weather with big winds and heavy rain. So on my way down on the highway, I was driving already slower than the speed limit. That's the regulation in France, but sometimes people don't follow the regulation. And due to the heavy rain, due to the hunting spots, I was driving very slowly, and I was very relieved when I arrived, and I told them I went through 2 hunting spots, and I don't like that, and dogs can be coming from nowhere, and people are going to be crossing the road without paying any attention and everything. And so she had been, maybe, I don't know, through the same hunting spots, but unfortunately a deer landed on her car. And modern cars are made to be destroyed around people but save them as much as possible, and this is exactly what happened. She was driving slowly. She was not injured at all. Only her car was destroyed. So Frédéric went there to get her and arrange things with the car insurance and everything. So she was saying, I'm safe, it's just money. People can come and get me, or Frédéric will host, I will sleep there tonight and people will come tomorrow. That was fine. She was fine. It was only a matter of money and insurance and stuff like that. And in France, car insurance is very different from what you can have in the US, for example. It's much cheaper. There is a much larger way to collect money and pay for liability for everyone. And she was not worried. it would cost her money, of course, because her car was not new, but not that old. And the value of the car is the one that the insurance is going to be taking into account to estimate what she can get from them to buy another car. So she will probably have to add some money to get a new car, but the most important for her was to be safe. And so that changed the spirit of the day, because everyone was a bit shocked about what happened, and I was very shocked because I thought maybe it's the same hunting spots or the same spots I went through. It could have happened to me, so I was a bit shaken, even though that's much lighter than what happened to her. Anyway, we had lunch, so she did not eat much, but because she was a bit stressed out. And another person arrived, an additional person arrived. And I'm not sure she started to knit on this piece right away or she had something else. She was with her daughter, so I think they started to knit something else. And then after we had lunch and everyone was getting up or whatever, we sat down next to each other. I don't think she's of French origin because she speaks with an accent, and I think she was speaking in German with her daughter, and her daughter was, I guess, fluent in both languages, because when she was speaking in French, she had no accent. So I would guess the daughter was born in France and went to school in France and everything. So we started to talk, and she pulled out one of her projects, and she started to knit, and I was looking at that, and what's that? So at first I did not ask. She was knitting with a very dark color. I don't recall if it was a dark blue or black, and a ball of very bright colored yarn with stellina, or maybe I do not recall if she was adding a string of shiny yarn. But anyway, a bright speckled yarn, heavily speckled yarn with shiny parts. I think it was in the yarn. And I looked at it and I said, "What are you doing?" And she showed it to me, and I was just baffled. I had never ever seen that kind of knitting. So I've been researching since then. So it's called illusion knitting or shadow knitting. And the one person that is famous for that type of knitting is Steve Plummer. So I'm going to leave a couple links down below to his Ravelry store, and there is a page on Wikipedia also that talks about illusion knitting. It's a form of holographic type of knitting. You create a hologram with your knitting, and Steve Plummer apparently is the god of this type of technique, and it's been recognized as a textile art since 2010. So when you look at the piece, the knitted piece from the front, you see different things than when you look at the knitted piece from the sides. And this type of illusion is created using two different yarns, mostly a dark one and a brighter one, and she has one with stellina or little sparkles of something. And the way you knits and purls, so you know that purls go up from the fabric and knits go down under the fabric. So it's a play between knits and purls and dark and clear. And so I took a video about her own project, and it's completely unbelievable. So I tried to retrieve which kind of pattern this was, and I asked Frédéric to ask her, and as of today I don't have the answer to my question, but I think it is, from what I recall and from what you are going to be seeing in the video, I think it's the Winged Serpent Illusion by Steve Plummer. I will place the link to the pattern in Ravelry, because even if it's not that one, it's kind of close to this pattern, to this illusion. And she was not knitting on a square project as to hang on a wall as Steve Plummer's original pattern. She was knitting a shawl, and a shawl for her daughter. It's just completely, it was a complete discovery to me. It was so incredible. I had never thought anyone could do anything like that. So once again, I'm 20 or 30 years late to this kind of party. And will I do that? I don't know. I have to find a project that I would like to be doing, and then decide on the yarn and everything. But the different pattern that Steve Plummer has are not of some interest to me. There are dragons, but I haven't precisely looked into everything. But it was just so incredible, and I don't know how it's gonna look in a shawl. I would think that it would be fabulous the way Steve Plummer's creations are. I mean, a piece on the wall, and then you walk by and you see different things from one side to the middle where you don't see anything usually, and from the other side. Or I'm not sure, I recall if it was from the middle that you would see something. I think it's from the sides that you see the pattern, and from the front you don't see anything. It was a discovery for me. Apparently everyone knew about that. And yeah, it was a very, very pleasant moment, a very pleasant person, a very pleasant day. And after we had lunch, so we continued knitting and talking and everything, more talking than knitting. And I left, it was about 4:30 or something. I had offered to drive back the lady who was in a car accident to her home, but she did not want to leave right now. And as I had a 2 hours drive, and I knew it would be dark when I arrived, I wanted to be in a place I know the roads and I can anticipate if there is traffic and everything. So I left and went back home. It was quite late and already very dark, and so I just had dinner. I went to bed. So that will be it for today. I hoped you enjoyed my little segment about Atelier Pure Laine as much as I did enjoy going there and spending the day. It was a very pleasant time for me. I don't have that many opportunities to be meeting with people who knit and talk about knitting other than on the internet with you when we talk in the comment sections. And I really, really appreciate all the discussions we have. In particular, all the discussion we've been having after my last No-Buy video, where I talked about my relapse, and we have had very interesting discussion to me, and that make you more present to me than just being on the other side of the screen. And this is another way to meet people and talk with people who are having very different interest into knitting than me. One person is mostly a sock knitter. I have knit socks when I was a teenager with my grandmother. That's all. So I need to go and knit socks at some point. Some people knit only shawls, some other only knit garments, some, as me, do a mix of everything. some brain techniques new to me, and it was an extremely friendly day, relaxed and friendly day, if you take aside the person who was having the accident and was so stressed out. And it was a dramatic part, but after we had been feeding her and talking with her, she kind of relaxed and I was feeling better. It wasn't going to be changing anything to her car, and she was not injured. But I do really much appreciate because being with other knitters in person, because when I'm behind the camera or when I am behind the screen watching people talk about their own knitting, I'm on my own. So I have my own train of thoughts and I say, okay, that's interesting to me. Okay, I don't like that. But talking with people is something that I appreciate very much and that I realize I kind of miss, talking in person. So I know some of you have said, I will wish we could meet and have coffee or other things. And I would so very much love that, because that direct interaction is so precious to me. And I will go back to one of our sessions once the weather is better in spring or at the end of the winter time, because right now it snowed in Normandy, not in my area because I'm 10 minutes from the sea, so it's not cold enough that close to the sea to be snowing much. It does snow here, but it was not cold enough at the time. But in the south of Normandy, we have hills, that we call mountains, and that we call the Swiss part of Normandy. That's the name in French. So these are big hills, but exposed hills, and usually it does snow more there than close to the sea where I live. So I will wait that the weather is nicer to go back there, and I'm really looking forward to that, because she has organized a special space in her farm to have people come and visit and stay there, and there is a fireplace and there is a coffee machine and there is the place where she keeps all of her yarn if you want to buy some, and on the outside there is a big pond. It's not a lake, it's too small for being a lake, but it's a very big pond, and she has a place where there are seats under the trees. It's just perfect during the summertime or the warmer days. So I'm really looking forward to going back, and I do hope you enjoyed that little moment you spent with me, and I thank you very much for watching, and I will see you next time.